into the future where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So the Chicago Cubs, as I'm sure you know, had absolutely no problem whatsoever beating the Indians in Cleveland last night to force a Game 7. Scored 3 runs off of Indians starter Josh Tomlin in the first inning, added 4 more on a grand slam by Addison Russell in the third. And now we are at an historic Game 7. And you know what? There's almost no one better to join us in the studio and talk about this than our robot overlord and rising comic superstar, man who has taken the internet by storm many a time, comedian and host of the Major League Podcast, Steve Hofstetter. How's it going, dude? Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. You know, my favorite part about the Indians losing Game 6 was the trash talk from, what's his name, Drone Face. The Indians pitcher who sliced up his hand. There were some players who were, you know, kind of trash talking on the way out and, you know, say, oh, you know, thanks for losing Game 5. And he goes, don't forget to thank me when you guys lose Game 6. Well, all right. Well, I think everybody remembered.
You know, it's a humbling thing, I would imagine. Because, like, look, the two teams that are in the World Series are really, really good at baseball. You know, it's not like a foregone conclusion. Like, baseball can go either way in entirely more predictable situations. But this, like, I don't know where you, maybe that's how you psych yourself into something. I don't know. But
this is the greatest series in a long time because everyone in the country would be rooting for the Indians if the Cubs weren't the other team. But because they are, everyone's rooting for the Cubs. Because they're just like, well, they suffered longer. And Indians fans are like, it's been since 1948. I mean, we've been a little sad, too.
Yeah, we've had a drought, just no goat to blame it on.
Yeah, but the Cavs just won, so everybody's like, shut up, Cleveland. We're doing this for Chicago.
Yeah, you got a championship down. Mm-hmm. If the Cubs win tonight, it'll be a little ironic because it means they'll have come back after being down 3-1, just like the Cleveland Cavaliers did against the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals earlier in the year. And in the NBA, no team had ever come back from being down 3-1 in the finals. It has happened in the World Series, though. It's rare. It's happened 5 other times, most recently in '85 when the Royals came back to beat the Cardinals. So, Cubs for you?
Yeah, I think it'd be fun for the Cubs. I also have, you know, had the opportunity to befriend a few of their alumni who are very wonderful people, and you know, so I want the happiness for them as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know people who like played for the Indians a little bit, but not like superstars for them. So I had it was a fun story. I had lunch in Chicago at a steakhouse with Gary Matthews and Billy Williams. Now, it's the only time I ever met Billy, but like Gary and I talk a lot. And so, but I didn't really know Billy well. But anyway, so we have lunch, and I will tell you, you have no idea how little you matter as a person until you have lunch at a steakhouse in Chicago with 2 Cubs greats. It was amazing because like everyone kept coming up to them, and Gary was really sweet about it. It's like, this is my friend Steve. He hosts his own television show. It's doing very well in Chicago. And everybody, yeah, shut up. Tell me about 1976. Right, yeah. Like, it was just amazing. No one cared that I existed. I couldn't even order. They had to order.
You do something. Like, you do something that I don't know. Like, never had the opportunity to do. But if I did, I don't know if I'd take it. And that is, like one of the stations I work for, we carry San Diego Chargers games, and Josh Lewin is the play-by-play guy for that. And then, you know, like, he's also the Mets guy, and like you and I are both huge Mets fans. And a lot of people have said to me, sort of like the Mets Twitter community and some other folks have been like, oh man, you could maybe get into the dugout and meet some people. And no, if I go to a baseball game, I would like really good seats. I'd like to sit as close as possible, but I don't want to go to a steakhouse. I don't want to be on a texting basis with Addison Reed.
You're worried that they'll be jerks?
Not even that. I'll tell you why it is. Because, like, the other day, someone was like, hey, Chino from Deftones is calling in. And I was just like, ugh. hours out of my day, and then I have to like talk to him and edit the interview down, and I've really got 8 million other things to do. Now, no disrespect to Chino from Deftones. Love Deftones, love Chino, and 16-year-old me would have kicked adult me directly in the junk for having any of these thoughts at all whatsoever. But it doesn't change the fact that when you make something you love part of your profession, your living, whatever it is, the way I have with music and radio and bands, it takes away some of the magic. And baseball is such an escape for me and such a happy place that I never want to lose any of that magic whatsoever. But you managed to maintain. You go hang out with baseball playing superstars, and you managed to remain a fan. Maybe we'll learn how you do that next.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
Another fun fact about tonight's game, or rather last night's game, the Cubs are the first road team to win Game 6 of the World Series when facing elimination since the 1997 Indians. Indians went on to lose that year, though. And here to discuss that and all things baseball related and all things politics radio related would be comedic superstar and our robot overlord, Steve Hofstetter.
Here's another fun thing that I found out. It was the first time the Cubs won double elimination games, like 2 in a row in their history.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which isn't too hard to believe because they have not been in the playoffs many times. But
right.
It's still kind of cool. Something I found that I stumbled on, un-Cubs related, but World Series related yesterday. So Don Larson threw that perfect game in 1956 in the World Series. And that was a big deal. But I didn't realize how much of a big deal it was. Back then, perfect games were not a thing. It was the first perfect game in 34 years. So I'd be curious. I haven't checked. I want to see how old Don Larson was at the time because I think it was the first one in his lifetime, and he threw it. I think that's incredible.
What was his pitch? You know so much more about baseball and stats that what was his area of specialty?
In 56, no one had a pitch. In 56, what was your pitch? You threw it. And you hoped for the best.
But I mean, weren't people throwing sort of had the era of the knuckleballer or the screwball come in yet? Or were you just hoping for the best?
There was definitely some stuff people would... That was you go back far enough, you get people like Walter Johnson who had 9 different names for pitches that really we would just look at now and be like, oh, those were all sinkers. Right. You just had, this is the old horse pitch. This is the old, just whatever stupid names they would think of. This is the old barn raiser. What? It's a curveball. So, I don't know Larson's offhand.
Charlie Sheen apparently all bent out of shape at the Indians for not inviting him to throw out the first pitch. In the middle of last night's game, he tweeted, quote, "Whoever is idiotically guilty of preventing me from throwing out the first pitch in any of these home games, well, just saying 7-1 top of the fifth," which
okay, he's a little salty, but at the same time, it's Dennis Martinez threw out the first pitch, 5-time All-Star Cleveland Indians great. So shut up, Charlie. It's not like they were just well, sorry, Charlie, you can't throw out the first pitch because we've already given it to the daughter of the bank sponsor. That's got a box here.
Yeah, in fairness to the Indians, they don't get to the World Series very often, more often than the Cubs, but they're honoring former players by having them do it as opposed to giving it to Sheen as part of a understandably cute stunt. I mean, aside from wearing an Indians jersey in Major League, does he have any connection to the team whatsoever beyond that? I
thought he was a Reds fan, if I remember. I don't remember, but I don't think he's an Indians guy aside from playing one in Major League. Now, I get the idea that bringing in, it would have been kind of fun if they did something like a pregame where they brought in a bunch of the cast of Major League. That would be a lot of fun, and I'm sure people would have gotten a kick out of that. But I bet Indians fans were way more excited to see Dennis Martinez than they would have been to see the guy on anger management.
Yeah. Yeah. Cubs took a shot at the Oakland Athletics by tweeting, quote, "Hey, now you're an all-star," after Addison Russell hit his grand slam. Reference to, do you catch any of this? It's a reference how the A's got into a Twitter war with Smash Mouth over the weekend.
What the hell was that? That was something I actually thought Smash Mouth handled it pretty well. Because Smash Mouth was kind of like, you got me. I just hope, I'm a big fan. I hope the team will be better. And the A's were like, shut up, you're the worst. And Smash Mouth was like, okay, you really got me. And the A's were like, but you're terrible. And Smash Mouth is like, all right, this is a little too far. And the A's are like, we're going to kill your mother. Like, it was whoever the social media person is for the A's, I really think went overboard on that. Like, it's fun to see them be a little salty and be a little fun. But, holy hell, what do you have against Smash Mouth? What does anyone have against Smash Mouth?
I guess Smash Mouth tweeted, "You have no fans. They all graduated college 18 years ago and grew up. Do the same." And the A's said, "Are you up late desperately tweeting for relevancy? Hey, now, that's not very all-star of you." Now, 10 out of 10 for style, minus several million for good thinking. I would imagine whoever was given charge of the Oakland A's Twitter account is maybe looking for a job right around now.
Or it's the most they've ever been in the news. Yeah. Like, this is the most press the A's have gotten since Moneyball came out. So...
Well, Sean Doolittle, I think Sean Doolittle had it locked out. Oakland, his tweet was, hey, guys, come on. Why can't we be friends? Which was another Smash Mouth hit.
Yeah.
Last year was rough, but I'm a believer. And I don't know if it was intentional, but like,
that was definitely intentional.
Well, Smash Mouth, no, it was definitely intentional, but Smash Mouth had this thing of like, you're a one-hit wonder. No, we're not.
Right.
Why Can't We Be Friends was a hit. That's a cover. A Believer was a hit. That is also a cover. And then they went on to have other hits. So, But at the time, I was wondering if he was pulling up the fact that some of their biggest songs they didn't write in this. But I thought Sean Doolittle won the internet on that one.
Oh, that was very funny. I'm sure that the A's seeing this, like the individual players, were just like, what the hell? What is happening right now? And they probably wanted to get in on the fun.
Yeah. The A's deleted all the tweets, replaced them with the following peace offering. Hey, Smash Mouth, sorry we let our competitive juices get the best of us. Tickets and a first pitch are on us anytime you're in the East Bay. And the band is down. They tweeted, let's do it. So so there you go. But had to be one of the strangest occurrences in all of professional baseball. The Oakland A's versus the guys that wrote Walking on the Sun.
I would like the A's to fight me on Twitter.
More from Steve Hofstetter when we return.
Never been to jail, never shot a 9, never smack a hoe, but I know how to have a good time. I grew up in the suburbs, I went to private school. I stayed mostly out of trouble, mostly I obeyed the rules. Upper middle class, so you know I'm not down. Still taking over when I'm rocking this town.
Stimulated minds want to know, what were you thinking? No, really, give us a call and tell us. KPRC AM 950.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on.
So, comedian, writer, and professional sports aficionado Steve Hofstetter, our robot overlord, is joining us on the show today, the day of Game 7 of the World Series. What do you make of the fact that Chicago Cubs fans were scattering ashes at Wrigley Field?
I didn't know about that story.
Yeah, no, like Chicago Cubs fans were scattering the ashes of their loved ones at Wrigley Field, apparently because it was their wish to be there when the Cubs finally did something.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah,
creepy and not okay. Like,
see,
I think it's one thing. Like when a debt, like someone's dying wish, and they're like, "Well, is their dying wish to do it?" It's like, well, but it's not an okay wish. Like if my dying wish is for you to murder my friend, like, well, it was his dying wish, so I'm gonna have to murder this guy now. Like there are certain things you can't do.
If you could have your ashes scattered everywhere, assuming for a second that you're going the cremation route, where would that be?
So assuming that I'm cremated and that I don't worry about completely disrespecting someone else,
Someone else's personal space.
Yeah, I think, just the weird thing. Because I know, like, they're like, well, they're just ashes and they'll blow away in the wind or whatever. It's like you're bringing a dead body. You're bringing a dead person to Wrigley Field. That's weird. Okay, if I could have my ashes scattered anywhere, I'm trying to think if there's someone I really don't like and, like, put it in their coffee. That's the ultimate revenge, right? Stephen A. Smith's coffee. Can I do that? I don't like him very much.
Funkhauser, if you were going to be cremated, where would the ashes go? Do you suppose?
Into a diamond, and then drop the diamond somewhere and make people try to find it.
Oh, that's cool. Like a puzzle.
There's a $10 million Funkhauser somewhere.
You know what? I would do. I would just put in my living room and just see if my Roomba could get it. Because like my Roomba's pretty great, but I don't know if they could get my ashes. I mean, that's a difficult ask of the Roomba.
It's a terrible, terrible thing. But when my grandfather passed away, and I totally understand why he wanted to do this. There was a place where people in my family grew up going camping in Maine, and he wanted to have his ashes scattered there. That's where my grandmother's ashes were scattered. And so there's video of like my mom and my uncle scattering the ashes. They went on this pilgrimage to Maine to scatter my grandfather's ashes, which I thought was like a beautiful thought. They into the water, and but there's this video, which is I don't know if you want to commit it to video with your cell phone. I was like, this is. You know how you shouldn't really hold up your camera at concerts and try and, you're never going to capture what it's like to see Green Day live. So just put the freaking phone down and make a beautiful memory. I would kind of put ashes scattering in that same category. Although, look, when you're grieving, even though they did this long after he passed away, when you're grieving, you're not necessarily always thinking with a clutch fully engaged. So sure. I get them doing it, but it was actually kind of a beautiful thing because I really wanted to be there and I couldn't be there, and it was tough. And I'm watching this video, which I think is kind of just strange anyway, but I'm kind of happy to be able to watch it. And I see my relatives throwing my grandfather's ashes into the ocean off the beautiful coastline of Maine, where we've had so many happy family times, and it's a tough emotional thing to take. And then I see the wind catch the ashes, blow it back into their face, and visibly I see an aunt and an uncle be and I was like, they got my grandpa's ashes in their mouth. And you know what? It provided a great moment of comic relief that for some reason made things easier.
You ate grandpa.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that like that is a trope that you've seen in TV and movies, but that's because it exists.
Yeah, yeah, and existed with my grandfather. So
yeah, it exists. Like if you throw ashes into the wind, that's what the wind does. The wind blows things in directions that are unpredictable.
Yeah, and you know what the wind does, especially when you're near the water? Changes unexpectedly, as they learned,
and usually blows away from the water. That's usually how it works.
Right. If only they'd had you there to guide them through the process, I think
I don't think I would have helped the moment.
Ironically, you would have made things less funny, and that's probably one of the very few times you've ever done something like that. Let's talk about your stand-up comedy career. What's going on? Because it's just every time we check in, it's like, oh, look, Hofstetter's going viral again. Oh, look, Hofstetter's selling out places. Oh, look, Hofstetter is bigger and better all the time. We'll just sit here achieving the same amount of things always while Hofstetter rockets off to the stars. What's going on?
It's been a good year. It was really like right around the first time we talked, because it was that spring training trip that started changing everything, because I had that was the first very viral clip, and then after that I had two more clips go viral. One was dealing with a sexist heckler, and one was dealing with some guy who was super drunk, and I ended his first date. And it turned out, I didn't know what was going on at the time. I just was like, this guy's got to get out of here. And it turned out it was a first date, and it was like they met on Bumble. And it was pretty funny. In the clip, I said this is the best commercial for Tinder that's ever happened. But I can't believe Tinder has not used the video. It's got like 1 million views. But anyway, so those things have been good. And then I sold a pilot, and then it got canceled before it even we finished making it. Yeah, because the network pulled the sponsorship money to another project. So thanks.
Do you get to keep the money, like the pilot money?
I mean,
like if you didn't make it, is there like a? check?
There was some of it. Yeah, we got to keep some of it, but mainly I paid my staff for the work that they did do. I made a little bit of money. I think it might be enough to go get like a couple of rolls of sushi or something, depending on the place. Yeah, not like a really nice place, like a kind of a low end sushi.
Right, one of those places where like the sushi goes around the restaurant on a train and you pick it up.
Yeah, exactly. And only the yellow plates. You can't get the blue plates; those are too expensive. So
when that happens, do you did you sell the rights to it? Can you now take your sitcom and go pitch it somewhere else? Like, do they own what you created and it'll never see the light of day? I've heard so many sort of like Hollywood horror stories. Like, no, I put my entire life into this and now I can't do anything with it. Like, how did it end?
The deal was it was always a licensing deal, and so like I still owned the concept and could even resell the concept elsewhere. So it was just a bump on the road. It was a learning experience. It was exciting and fun to a degree, and I was very happy about it. And then it didn't happen, and we move on. And that is how you talk to any successful comedian, and they've got more projects that didn't happen than most people have ever even watched. Like that's how it works.
I love television, like well-written television, good TV. I love it, and I think more and more it's becoming the most cutting-edge form of media out there. But like I had a small dalliance with television as well, and it made up my mind that I don't want to do TV because I had this silly little half-hour show that was on in 3 or 4 different cities a couple years ago, and big production company came along and said, we're going to shoot a pilot and shop it to these people and all that. And the number of things that have to happen before a half hour of television get made, by the time you get to making that half hour of television, any enthusiasm that you manage to retain for it is just like, it's crazy. And I'll never forget, I had this like TV deal and I was all excited and it was like this big thing. And then the company that was making it was doing kind of they had something where Appalachian mountain men would go shoot stuff or something. That they had some other sort of like vaguely reality-esque show going on. And right as we're about to go shoot our pilot for the thing I was doing, they're like, this thing that's in production and about to air, we just found out that like 5 of the people on our show have domestic violence charges against them, so they can't be on TV, so we got to find all new stuff. We'll pick your project up in another 6 months. And I was just like, no, you won't. That's it for me. Radio, I can walk in, I can turn on a microphone, and I could be doing it right away. And TV's so hard, man. Well, You've done a lot of it, though. Like, for you, though, it's got to be stand-up comedy, right? You can walk on stage and be doing your job in 2 seconds.
It depends on the type of TV I'm doing. This is actually a great segue. First of all, TV movie coming out on Sunday.
What?
Yeah, I'm in a movie called Love Always Santa on the Hallmark Movie Channel. Yeah, that's real.
What do you play?
I play a poet who delays a pivotal scene because he refuses to get off stage. And it's a lot of fun. Black turtleneck, beret, everything. It's scarf indoors. It's so much fun. And they let me ad-lib, which is really cool. It was so Jay Black, who is a buddy of mine, a very talented comedian and writer. So he and Brian Herzlinger, who I've also got to know through Jay, they wrote the movie, and then Brian directed it, and Jay was one of the actors in it. And so it was super fun because not only did I get to be in this movie, but I got to be in this movie with friends of mine. So it was even a cooler experience. It was a lot of fun. We shot in Northfield, Minnesota.
It's amazing. Like Sunday, we can turn on the Hallmark Channel and see you?
Yeah, I think it's 9 o'clock on Sunday, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, I forget, on Sunday. It's called Love Always Santa. And it's like a cheesy romantic comedy, but like a very well done cheesy romantic comedy. Like when I first read the script, I was like, I'm going to hate this. And then I read it and I was like, oh no, this is actually really funny. Like they had a lot of really great moments in it because it was written by a comedian. And so it's the best version of that genre, So,
interesting.
Yeah. And then, but the other thing I wanted to segue in, because we're talking about TV, is what Jill Stein said about John Oliver. Could we talk about that?
Yeah, well, no, we'll talk about what Jill Stein of the Green Party launched an all-out attack on comedians, and that's very, very interesting. But before we get to that, I want to know, like, forget your hard work and talent. Besides all that got you onto the Hallmark Channel for this TV movie that we're going to see on Sunday, how does that happen? Because quite frankly, I want to see Funkhauser on the Hallmark Channel. I think like he's been in the game shows. He's been pranked by Jay Leno. This seems like the next natural step in his progression.
To be
what's the number for your agent? Can you just give me all your connections?
I'm actually now, because they liked me in the movie, so the production company that made the movie is now talking to me about doing my own projects with them. And so if one of those gets made, one of them is actually one of the things I pitched to them is actually a horror movie. So maybe we can kill Funkhauser.
You heard it here. We have it like this will be podcast after this broadcast, and the proof will live in perpetuity. If this gets made, Funkhauser gets to die on the Hallmark Channel.
Well, I mean, I don't think the Hallmark Channel will have the horror. I think we'll probably sell that to like Sci-Fi or something like that. But
well, I can't wait to be deceased.
Yeah.
So you brought up this very interesting thing about Jill Stein. Jill Stein went after comedians, and like for those that don't know, explain how that happened.
So this was ridiculous. So John Oliver did a piece that basically said Jill Stein and Gary Johnson and all their fans are complaining they're not being taken seriously, and he was like, okay, well, let's take them seriously, and then just ripped them to shreds for silly things about policy. Now Jill Stein swears that John Oliver did it on purpose and got it wrong, that, her student loan policy isn't as limited as he said, although in that note, she didn't offer what her real one was. Like, he took my quotes out of context. And it's like, well, but he aired a good portion of what you said, and you did say it, and it was your plan. So, yeah, but I wanted to also plan other things. It was very dumb of her. But anyway, so she claimed that, like, corporate comedians were, there's this culture of corporate comedians that are attacking people because of what their bosses say to do, basically saying that because he works for HBO, which is Time Warner, and Time Warner is a Hillary supporter, therefore they were telling him to take Jill Stein out of the running. It's like, first of all, Jill, you weren't in the running. Second of all, like, I've done television. I've had my own show. You know what my boss never said to me? Anything political at all. I worked for Fox. I had my own show on Fox. The people owned by Rupert Murdoch. I almost said Robert Murdoch. By Rupert Murdoch. And they never once told us to hit anything. In fact, most of the comedy that we had on our show hit the right, not the left. You know what they did tell me over and over again? Go get ratings. Make us money. That is what they want. They're not out there trying to elect the president. They're out there trying... And I understand Fox News is a little bit different, but Fox News exists the way they exist because it makes them money.
Right.
If no one was watching Fox News, they wouldn't stick to that agenda. They would flip to be like Air America if that made money. And so...
I'm so glad you bring this up because especially around elections, like not so much in the talk radio world, but with the music radio I do, constantly people are like, you're part of a liberal media plot. And it's just like, there is a liberal media plot. Like radio stations like yours are there to... No one's ever said freaking boo to me about it. The only thing anyone's ever said was like, just be careful, people feel strongly about this. So don't step on people on either side. That's the only directive I've ever got politically on any of these stations. And people are like, it's part of a liberal media plot to care about your feelings.
It's okay to disagree. It's not okay to be understimulated.
Well, I was just thinking that...
This is KPRC 950.
Now, more AD on the radio.
So I'm unbelievably happy that rising comedy star and our robot overlord, Steve Hofstetter, is here on the show today. And I'm happy that we're talking politics. And I'm happy for, well, A, it's always great to see Hofstetter. B, I think we've hit a tipping point. I think the days of having respect for the office of president are a wash. That's it. Game over.
Absolutely.
Done deal. And I think that the days of having a source of news media that you can really trust to just bring you facts and leave out all the conjecture and editorializing are kind of sort of over and done with. And what's interesting about all that is I think we're entering an era where satire has become more important now than maybe it ever has been in the past, certainly in my adult lifetime, just because I find that comics have an access to the truth that almost nobody has in this day and age, whether it's their truth or someone else's truth. You're not beholden to people when you're one guy on a stage. You're beholden to yourself and perhaps your audience. But wouldn't you say that your role in 2016 and beyond in terms of affecting the cultural zeitgeist, if you will, just got like 20 times bigger after this election cycle?
Oh, absolutely. And, one of the things that frustrated me so much about what Jill Stein said is I want to be like, hey, you're out there talking about how you're independent, you're going to shake up the system, and, speaking truth to power. It's like, no, that's my job. My job is to speak truth to power, and you're trying to mute us right now because our truth to power doesn't agree with yours. And so, like, the idea of taking someone to task, and frankly, next week, I can't wait for Hillary to win this election so that I can go back to making fun of her like God intended. Like, I have been, because I feel a responsibility as a human, like, as people say, like, oh, well, wouldn't Trump be better for comedy? It's like, it's kind of hard to do comedy in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Like, it's a little difficult to have a comedy club when everything's been nuked everywhere. So, and when he is someone who actively seeks to censor those who don't agree with him, which is something that really bothers me. So I would love to make fun of Hillary. I did not vote for her for Senate in New York when I was living there. I voted against her. I'm not a fan of hers. But there comes a certain point where you have to eat your vegetables. And that is what I'm doing right now.
I talked to my unbelievably liberal aunt this morning about this. And look, she's that part of my family are sort of vaguely Kennedy-esque in their political leanings and how they've gone through life. And I was like, do you feel good about? And she's like, no, not really. And she was like, I don't think there's a person in this country. Who at the moment can, and if there is, I'm jealous of them, who can go, I'm voting for this person, and I feel great about it. I have no reservations whatsoever about pulling the lever of democracy for either of these two people. I don't know anyone who's like happy with the Sophie's choice of an election that we've been handed.
The best bumper sticker I saw was, I guess Hillary. Awesome. But that frankly is the case right now. And I know that, and everybody's like, well, what about those emails? Like, what if we saw Trump's? What would happen if we saw, first of all, we've never seen anything like this. Yeah, because you've never seen any candidates' emails like this. This is a horrible breach of privacy. And it's something that, like, it is how the sausage is made. And if you're a smart person, you know that already. There is nothing that came out in her emails that surprised me at all. She's a politician. She's always been a politician. That is how it works when it comes to politicians. And every single one has emails like that. And Trump's emails probably say much worse, much more terrible things. We just haven't seen them because whoever's doing this is clearly polemic and one-sided.
Well, and also, if Trump's emails contain much, much worse things, I think the distinction to make is he wasn't a servant of the people at the time that he was making them. But like the crazy thing about it is people were saying as we were going into this election, this is the first election that's going to be decided on Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
And information moves so quickly. You can't squash something. It's going to get out. It's going, if something comes out, it's going to go around the world 20 times and you will not be able to stop it. It'll go around the world 20 times before breakfast. And the thing that is really interesting about this particular cycle is it's made a lot of folks go, we're learning terrible things about both of these people, things that give us great cause for pause in terms of who we want to vote for. Has it been like this the whole time and we're only now just realizing it because of the technology that's been afforded to us? Has every single candidate had these kinds of sort of like, oh man, skeletons in their closet? Like, I wanted to like them and they said or did that. Like, do you think it's been this way for every presidential election?
To a degree. I think this is particularly worse with it's. I mean, look, we found out a lot about we found a lot of dirt about Hillary. It's interesting to me, though, that people are judging it without context, where people keep let's say Benghazi was 100% her fault, which everyone knowledgeable of Benghazi doesn't believe that. But let's say it was. I would like to say to the people who are freaking out about it, like, okay, tell me one Secretary of State who doesn't have blood on their hands. Or just name one other Secretary of State. If you could do that, that would really help the context of this. But people judge this stuff in a vacuum because they see memes. And, like, people will say... Because, I'm very political on my Facebook, and so people will just, like, send me these memes as if they're going to convince me. And I was like, some stupid Photoshop picture without sources isn't going to change my mind, you moron. Like, send me an actual
You get
source.
into that? You get into that?
No, I don't,
like,
I don't say it. I just delete it.
Well, no. But I mean, like, you're political on Facebook. Like, I guess
I make jokes. It's a lot of fun. Like, I would tweet that, like, I wouldn't vote Donald Trump for president of my condo association. Like, I'll tweet stuff like that, and then people will just be like, what about Hillary? I was like, what about you unoriginal idiot? Like, you're just going to repeat nickname. That's the other thing that I don't get. Like, the whole nickname thing where people do that. You know what? When I was a little kid and I was a big Mets fan, and I hated the Yankees because I was a big Mets fan, so I called them the Stankies because I was 7.
Right.
And that's what you do when you're 7. But when you're an adult, you use actual language.
You have an intestinal fortitude that I do not possess. And I'll tell you, like, I
throw up a lot.
I can't. We'll talk about why I don't get into politics online directly ahead. Thank you so much for joining us. He's Steve Hofstetter. As always, it's illuminating.
People who say you got plenty to say about me, so how come you never ever seem to want to say it to my face? Well, I got a little theory, I think you'll agree that you're not enough of a man to step to me. So when you see me in the street, you got nothing to say. That's a bitch move, punk. Keep my name out of your mouth, or you're fixing to get knocked out. If you don't want none of it.
Real radio. Real radio. Real radio. Real radio. 104.1.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is.
The dumbing up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So we are living in a day and age where the election that is just days away now has been shaped by the fact that if you give someone an internet connection and a smartphone, they will swear that they are the center of the universe. And because of that, there's been a lot of, I'm putting this in a polite way, political conjecture that has taken place online. Now, when I remove myself from this whole situation, Steve Hofstetter, you want to know what my personal breaking point was?
What did you do?
Do you remember the week and a half or so when the entire internet was engulfed with the ideas of gay marriage and the Confederate flag simultaneously, and it was stars and bars and rainbows as far as the eye could see? When that was all over and done with, I looked at it. I was like, look at the number of man hours that went into this, and how many people were convinced to think differently through it. And look, people like you that can be political. You're a comedian. You make political jokes. That's part of your wheelhouse. And for that reason, there is, there's reason for you to be doing this stuff. But when that happened, I was like, okay, that's it. I'm out. And I made myself a promise. I am never disagreeing with someone online again. I'm just not.
I don't get into it. I don't do the back and forth. But, but at the same time, I do think that some people's minds are changed. If Trump could have a 12% swing in the polls because the FBI were like, all the FBI said was like, there's some new things we got to look at. It's probably nothing. And people were like, oh, my God, she's a criminal. And so if those people could be swayed just by something that small, then I think people can be swayed by a lot of people coming out and just saying, hey, this is who we support and this is why, and, et cetera, et cetera. But here's what's going to happen. And here's the thing that I have a problem with. Okay? I have not attacked people personally on this show. We've been talking about this. I've had my opinion and I've said it. And I can guarantee you that I am going to get tweets from listeners and they are not going to say, hey, I respectfully disagree with you. I actually think that Trump is the better candidate. They're not going to say, like, you know what, not happy about voting for either one, but if you've got to choose one, I'm actually going to choose Trump. And they're not even going to say, like, hey, you know what, I'm not able to get over all the things about Hillary the way that you are, so I disagree with you. You know what they're going to say? They're going to say horrible things that we can't say on the air right now, and they're going to attack me personally. They're probably going to say things about, like, I posted a joke about, because Katrina Pearson, one of Trump's spokespeople, follows me on Twitter, and so I did this whole campaign to try to get her to unfollow me. And someone posted something where they disagreed, where they made fun of my father dying. And I was just like, I hate that you have a vote. I hate that your vote counts as much as mine, because you're such an unhinged crazy person. And you get to cancel my vote out.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is. Look, it evidences the worst qualities, the anonymity afforded to people behind a keyboard, behind an internet connection. It's like having road rage all the time. You say and do these things while you're in your car that you would never dream of doing if, you had the same sort of was it Louis C.K. who said someone cut him off and he was worthless piece of S, and he was like, if someone stepped in front of me in the elevator, I would not say that to them. That's not, you act differently, and people are just emboldened by the silliest thing, and the humanity goes straight out the window, and it's just no room for anyone else to be allowed to have any kind of thought that doesn't match up perfectly with theirs. But what's interesting is I find that 9 times out of 10, if you talk to people in person, one-on-one, you're going to evidence the better side of their personality. And that's what I love about people like you. You make a business of traveling around the country and getting in front of crowds of people that are going to invariably think differently than you. And every single day when you're out on the road, and every single day when you're walking through life, but you, more than a lot of other people, you're going to meet folks that you disagree with totally, and you're going to find a way to get along with them, because that's part of your daily gig, being a human and getting along and getting your job done.
Sure,
people that travel.
Just enough for them to buy one of my albums. I mean, that's super important. No, I absolutely hear what you're saying. And the point I would like to make is, for anyone listening right now, if you post online anonymously, I will never take anything you say seriously, because you are too much of a coward to stand behind it. And so how can you make a point that you don't even stand behind? How am I supposed to stand behind your point if you don't even believe it enough to actually have your name out there? Because when I make a point, my name is there, my job is there, my employer is there. You can come after me if you want to. Mm-hmm. And so if you're out there with an egg as your Twitter picture and your name is Lord Chaos or whatever dumb thing it is, then nothing you say
Lord
matters.
Chaos.
Yeah, just nothing you say matters, because you don't believe it matters enough to actually come from a human being. You need it to come from an anonymous account. So your opinion does not matter.
Would you retweet when Lord Chaos tweets you?
Oh, if Lord Chaos tweets me right now,
I will
it'll be such a great day. But
I don't want
it
Lord
to come
Chaos, that's an actual thing? You're not making that up?
No, I was completely making that up. But if it happens to happen...
If a Lord Chaos.
But I don't want Lord Chaos 12. No, the actual Lord Chaos. I want the original. I want the Lord Chaos who was there in the beginning. I want OG Lord Chaos.
OG Lord Chaos. Yeah. Hopefully that person has had Lord Chaos ever since his first AOL Instant Messenger name, and he didn't have to have any numbers, or she didn't have to have any numbers behiing it. So,
Lord Chaos can be a lady.
In my experience, most Lord Chaoses have been ladies. I guess no, then they would be Lady Chaos, wouldn't they? I don't know. But that's too gender specific, and I'm gonna get flayed alive by somebody on Twitter, probably by Lord Chaos, who's actually a lady. Oh hell, what are we supposed to do with ourselves? What are you going to be doing with yourself? Politics aside, besides the fact that we can see you on the Hallmark Channel on Sunday, what's the name of the movie?
It's called Love Always Santa, and it's Sunday, November 6th on Hallmark Movie Channel.
It's a little early to be starting with Christmas. I kind of before the Thanksgiving turkey's done, people that start on I
think they're airing it so that they can repeat it as it comes closer to Christmas. But it was one of those things when we filmed it, I was like, okay, I don't have to ask when this is coming out. Obviously, this is going to be coming out sometime, late November, early December. And then they were like November 6th. And I was like, all right, I'll take the extra couple weeks. That'll be fine.
Right. Very good. But beyond Love Always Santa and your star turn on the Hallmark Channel, what else you got? When do you all right, you like to Hofstetter has done something brilliantly genius that we all wish we could do. I.e., he's turned everything that he loves into part of his career, whether he's writing about sports or whether he's doing stand-up comedy tours of spring training baseball games. He's finding a way to indulge his love of sports and make it part of his daily life. What do you do like during the winter? Like, are you going to go to fall league games? Have you seen Tebow play baseball yet? Are you gonna?
I don't think anyone's seen Tebow play baseball. I think people have seen Tebow put a uniform on. That was so embarrassing as a Met fan. But actually, I mean, I'm a fan of other sports too. So I do some stuff with MSG in New York, and so I'm going to in December. I'm going to go catch a Rangers game, and I'm gonna go watch some Knicks games and stuff like that too. And and frankly, I'm just gonna enjoy myself. I'm doing spring training both in Florida and Arizona next year. I plan my tour around both of those, and I'm also touring. I'm touring the world next year. I'm doing 13 countries. I'm going to Japan and Australia. And I'm doing a Europe trip that starts in Ireland and ends in Norway. And we're driving the whole way, which is awesome. So I'm going to see all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's a thing.
Funkhauser, we're living our lives wrong. Go on, Steve.
It's called the Your Tour, and what I did is I basically put out 155 cities, and I said if I sell enough tickets in any of these cities, I'll come. And 59 cities actually answered the call and bought enough tickets, and so I'm going all over the world. It's going to be great.
How do you like? I mean, with venues and stuff and ticket sales, like, how do you get a venue to go in on, like, hey, maybe I'm going to do this, maybe I'm not. Let's see how ticket sales go. Well, do they like that, or does that scare them?
I didn't even do it with venues. I just said, the venue will be announced later, and so once the tickets sell, you can get any venue you want. When I emailed a venue in London and say, hey, we've already got 95 tickets sold, and the show isn't till next summer, and we haven't even announced a venue yet, they go, oh, yes, what date would you like?
Wow.
So, I mean, that's
fantastic.
That's how it works.
Again, Funkhauser, we're living our lives wrong. That's amazing.
Funkhauser's going to die if I sell this movie. So.
Well, have you?
It doesn't even matter to me.
Have you played other countries? Have you played other countries where English isn't the first language often?
I've only played English-speaking countries. I've done Canada, I've done the UK, and I've done South Africa. South Africa was super interesting because their comedy scene is a little over. It's 20 years old, basically. It's since apartheid. Like, they did not have stand-up comedy, and so the comedy club scene is less than 10 years old.
But hold on, that's a very important thing to take note of. Like, it goes back to me saying that comedians have access to the truth that other folks do not. And the fact that an apartheid country outlawed stand-up comedy until apartheid was done away with really just speaks to that fact that you have, like, satire is our best source of the truth in this day and age. But go on. Fascinating stuff.
Here's actually a good thing to look at for the election. Before you vote for someone, say, okay, who is fine with people speaking out against them? And who is it in this election that the actual Nazis and the actual KKK supports? Those are two questions you should really ask yourself before you vote. I just think that's smart, maybe. Unless you're,
those are good questions.
It's especially if you are in the KKK, you really want to know who your leader's going to vote for, so you don't accidentally go against the union.
Yeah. You know what? I suppose if you are in the KKK, it's probably a wise thing to consult with your Grand Dragon before pulling that old lever of democracy.
Yeah, make sure you know who the guy in the red pajamas is voting for.
What was it like? Very good. What was it like playing South Africa?
It was absolutely amazing. The crowd definitely wanted to hear what I had to say as an American. I mean, they were curious about it because they don't get a ton of American comics over there. But also it was really interesting because there are two schools of comedy existing at once. There's, in the 1980s, most comedy in America was very schlocky. It was very like, silly ties and sound effects and stuff like that. And then
suspenders.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of suspenders, rainbow preferred. And it evolved into this like personal narrative stand-up comedy. I mean, you had, you had Carlin and you had Hicks and you had, all the way back to Bruce, but that wasn't the most important part of comedy at the time. And so now most comedy is this, in America is this very personal narrative. And in South Africa, you've got two schools. You've got the one school, which is the brand new comedy, and so they're doing whatever can get a laugh, which is the pratfalls and the rubber chickens and all the crap that we used to do in the 80s. But you've also simultaneously got the people who listen to a bunch of podcasts and who are influenced by American and British comedy and, are doing this very heady, very personal monologue stuff. And they exist at the same time on the same show. And it's the weirdest thing to see because it's like watching 1980s American comedy and then also Marc Maron. Like on the same show.
Steve Hofstetter, whenever you leave, I feel like there's 25 more things that we have to talk about, so I can't wait to have you back again. Thank you so much for joining us. Go Cubs, go, he said, begrudgingly, but still wanting for them to win. And have yourself an awesome night. We'll do this again soon. And yes, thank you to our robot overlord. well pointed out, Funkhauser.
Times you feel like it's cool to turn the other cheek and give people the benefit of the doubt even when they don't deserve it. And sometimes you feel good about yourself.